Welcome to Sage Intacct Top Level versus Entity Level. I'm going to be discussing the differences between top level and the entity levels and examples of when to use them and what they are for. Also, as part of the Banger deployment plan, we put you into a planning session where we discuss various topics, including top level versus entity level. So depending on your integrated software solutions, depending on if you're multi-entity and where you do transactions, depending on how many partnership groups you might have, how reporting needs to be done, you will have an in-depth discussion about entity versus top level in the planning session you have during our deployment plan. So there is one misconception I do want to say right away. Top level is not a consolidation level. It is not a reporting level. It is purely considered a configuration level. So when you are looking at the entities and the drop-down menu here, the top level does not mean that it is consolidating these in reporting purposes. That is not what top level refers to. Okay, so think of top level as a configuration level. So at the top level, you are going to do such things as configure your general ledger, configure your accounts receivable, configure your accounts payable. There are more configurations in other areas that we do at top level, but that's just an example. So I'm going to come in here just to one screen and show this and what I am referring to. So we're going to configure journals and the journal tags for bills, adjustments, and payments, for example. We will also talk about GL account posting and some other top level configurations we will do for all entities across your entire instance. Also, another thing you will do at top level is you will bring in a shared chart of accounts. So for all of the entities I have set up in the system in my company entities, they will be listed in the drop-down menu. For all of these entities where you want to share chart of accounts, you're going to create your chart of accounts at the top level. So right now I'm at top level and I have my chart of accounts shared for all of my entities. Okay. There's a few caveats to a few accounts you will not share, and cash is one of them. Okay. So these will be set up at the entity level. But accounts receivable, for example, would be something you would share across all your entities. So when you do reporting, when you do financials, when you do a balance sheet and you might have your various entities or profit and loss with your various entities at the top in a columnar format. You don't want to have 5 different accounts receivable accounts. You don't want to have 5 different revenue accounts. So it will allow you to share and report a clean set of financials without duplicate accounts. Another item that you will configure at the top level is your standard cost codes. So in projects set up standard cost codes, your cost codes will be shared across all entities. So this is a top level only situation. You will not be able to add cost codes to one entity and restrict it to the one entity. Okay, so we will go through this in the planning session with you if you have multiple entities using different cost code lists. Okay, so that is something that will be shared across all entities. Okay, the other area that will also be shared across all entities is your standard cost types. Okay, so these should be set up at the top level. These will be shared across all of your entities as well. Again, we talk about this in the planning session with you. Generally speaking, you are also going to put your employees in at the top level as well. So that is 90% of the time, these go in at top level. Okay. The other areas of the system, your cash accounts, your customers, your vendors, your projects, we highly recommend that you bring those in and you set those up at the entity level. So cash accounts are going to be set up at the entity level most of the time. However, during your planning session, we do also talk about these specific topics and make sure that you don't need to bring them in at the top level. Okay, so there are some nuances to top level versus entity level. One of them is software solutions that integrate with Intacct. So some of them can only hit the top level. And that is why we talk about this extensively in the planning session with you. Okay, so all of these different areas I'm referring to, we will be talking about that in a planning session. Okay, so if you share your customers, you share your vendors, and you want to bring those in at top level, you can also do that as well. Okay. Now, depending on where we put your customers and vendors and projects, so if we put your customers at top level, your vendors at top level, and your projects at top level, for an example, we might consider and we might have to put your transactions at top level because of some of your software solutions. Okay. But most of the time, most of the software solutions, or half of them, I should say, can hit the entity level with your transactions. Okay. So depending on where we set up your list for customers, vendors, projects, for example, that's where it's going to drive where your transactions go. If we decide to put transactions at top level, then we will keep a specific setting that I'm going to show you. We will keep that turned off. So in your multi-entity management, you are going to have a setting that allows you to record transactions at top level or entity level. So I'm going to scroll down here to my multi-entity management configuration. And if I have decided to put transactions in at top level, I am going to leave all of these checkboxes off. You do not want to check restrict access to top level only. That restricts down your system way too much, and you will not want to turn that on. If you're going to record transactions at entity level, and we have decided that during your planning session, then we will come in here and we will turn these boxes on so that only transactions will go in to the specific entities and they will go in at that level. Okay. So the purpose of that is when you're looking at Timberline GC entity, for example, and you're looking at the bills list, the AP bills list, and I'll show you what I'm referring to. That then will only have those accounts payable bills listed in that list and not all of the other entities. So these are purely Timberline GC bills only. Okay. So that's one of the perks and one of the pros to entity level transactions. There are more pros and cons to entity and top level. Like I said, we discussed that in the planning session with you. I do want to mention one more item regarding entities and top level in regards to users. So in company admin users, you can restrict users to specific entities. So for example, on this user, I have a user entities tab that I can then say, Emma is only going to see Timberline GC. So even if I put transactions in at top level, she will only see those specific entity bills, for example. Okay. So we do talk about this, like I said, quite a bit in the planning session, your security, your entities, and your multi-entity setup. And we guide you on which level you will bring master lists, meaning customers, vendors, chart of accounts, kind of things, and where to put your transactions. So that is a quick overview of top level, entity level. If you have more questions, feel free to ask Richard. So on askrichard.io, you can ask questions such as top level versus entity level. And it will give you a brief synopsis. Okay. So remember, we do want to discuss this with you in the planning session because there are specific use cases and specific reasons why we will suggest top level versus entity level.